There has been much by way of real side experiences shared of late in regards to the potentiality of an impending alien armada, a fleet of various spacecraft representing quite the plethora of assorted body types and species, hailing from all corners of this creational realm. Over the years, where this real side view has been a relative constant, for indeed have I had this real side experience since childhood, in what I would label back then as a recurring dream, the only changing variable would be the intent of this alien armada. For initially would the armada be launched with Earth as its destination, for the purposes of a contact as it were, what would be a global occurrence, and that indeed would the various species involved be overall deciding to step up, become more aware, and the way in which they had decided to then assist DUANE and the guides would include this mass contact with all Earthlings, and the bringing in of beneficial technologies, and the forging of a kind of Star Trek style conglomeration of species that would then incorporate humanity. Every creational based being, despite perhaps placing in attention with the recognition of the ears in one moment, will still have their personal selves, where free will, choice, and intent can fluctuate, where focus with the real awareness and all life can ebb and wane, until firmly established and solidified. And as I said, the armada was always a constant. The intent, however, would be revealed as to its fluctuation. For indeed, I have been shown how the intent has ranged from almost being absolute in regards to being beneficial, life and awareness-wise, to the complete opposite, as though influenced to assume more abrasive and destructive inclinations in regards to the earth and humanity. Over the years has the intent leaned continuously more toward being that which is life beneficial, a support for humanity, etc., and this is where it currently stands. But certain species within the armada have been shown to have stepped back, such as the gargoyle species in the real side experience I shared recently. But as I said, personal intent and agreement is always floundering and flip-flopping, and there's every chance even the species that have pulled back may decide differently at a later moment, and join again with the aliens armada and its overall choice to provide a benefit. Whatever transpires is all based on agreement, and so whatever takes place is through the arrangement of the agreement ideas that interconnect all species involved, from the humans to the dastardly dark forces, to the beneficial intenting aliens. Each individual is the architect of their simulated experience, and in regards to others, the extent by which others can carry out the actions they desire that impact the individual is, according to the agreement, the permission placed within the consciousness of the individual that they can. A being can be as powerful in their body form or developed with a technology as they have created their consciousness to effect. But unless I have the idea that they can now harm or destroy me installed in my consciousness, then despite their best efforts, they will be unable to do so. And so, where species are in positions where they are being destroyed by others, or even assisted, there must have been the agreements placed that allow this always as a potentiality, and then it falls on the species to choose to carry out their destructive or assisting actions. Just because one being has the ability and the opportunity to destroy another through agreement which allows that this can be so, it doesn't mean the being has to carry out such destruction, as it always is a choice. And so, beings, body types, and species come into a conjunction, and what takes place between them is based on the agreements as shared with all involved, as though established movie scripts, somewhat like files of information always being transferred between a consciousness that dictate potentiality of a simulated experience. In this real side experience, I would be standing in a field, and as I looked skyward, so would I see the skies filled with a spacecraft of all types and designs, further verification of the impending Armada, as all the variety of ships were due to the vast array of different species involved in this Earth first contact event. My impressions afforded the personal self via the real awareness would provide assurances as to the overall Armada's continued beneficial intentions in regards to humanity. For indeed, one particular craft of the classic saucer design would descend, hovering directly above me, and I had the further strong impression that it was to beam me aboard. That although this didn't take place in the experience, my impressions were that yes, this was set to be a global event, and all humanity would be made aware of it by virtue of it being impossible to ignore or disregard, the skies all over the planet filled with very apparent alien craft, etc., but additionally were the various aliens keen to make specific and direct contact with the new friends. As after all, the aliens also were stepping up and becoming more aware, naturally then do beings tend to congregate where their intent aligns. As the new friends and the aliens of the Armada would be more so standing real, and as we recognize the real intent in others, so we tend to associate with them, for intent shared must effect experience that converges. Life always supports life, unless the individual is denying themselves from accepting and allowing this support by isolating themselves in their cocoons of created consciousness, and so remain as the effects of however they have created their consciousness to be. As such, they will unlikely be featuring consistently within the experiences of those who have set their intent with the ears, unless they abrasively impose, or circumstances dictate that beings on their awareness processes happen to enter into their midst. As I said, the aliens were set to operate in a humanity assisting capacity and serve as a wake-up, but would have the inclination to connect with other beings also on their respective awareness processes. I would find myself momentarily removed from the scene and now entering what appeared to be what I would best describe as a gypsy or traveller's camp, Carriages and camper vans were strewn throughout what was then a community. Seems I had been somewhat invited here, and as tends be the case, every engagement is an opportunity to present the true reality, etc. For as I entered now a highly decorated caravan, so would a woman be awaiting me, presenting herself as a mystic. Seems she was curious as to those who were on their awareness processes, as though she wanted to scan them with her psychic ability, to determine perhaps energetic or even frequency differences that may result from an intent set to recognize the ears. As undoubtedly would there be some indicators, especially other dimensionally, in regards to our 5 bodies. For such individuals as psychics can see into the other dimensions, although they may lack the recognition of the real awareness that is aside from everything creational. Whatever she determined as she scanned me intrigued her to the extent that she didn't want to let me leave. As though whatever she had discovered was something she wanted for herself, and wouldn't allow my departure until she had claimed it. Although real awareness isn't an idea that can be isolated, pinned down, and put into a box, it is the true reality, beingness, aside from creation. A real awareness she would be also, though immersed as she was in the personal self-consciousness, she was unrecognizing that this was so, and she had the consideration that whatever it was that expressed as it did with my multi-dimensional bodies, she wanted to claim and wield it. A little like how Joni thought the rod of a power was an actual artifact she could utilize for greater controlling purposes, and so, as she effectively was considered the authority within the traveller community, so they would adhere to her dictates, and on her directions, so they would imprison me in one of the caravans, that she could spend whatever time necessary to discover the secret of my unusual energy readings, or whatever it was she had discovered. Little did she know that yes, I had agreed to enter their community through the issued invite, that yes, I would now experience the effects of such an agreement, which included my being locked in one of the camper vans, but as agreement affects our situations, the situation only can perpetuate as the agreement is maintained. Remove the agreement, and we can be extracted from any real side situation, as though erasing the file that generates the simulated game. This I would do, and now would find myself back in a random town somewhere on Earth. The location undisclosed, but what was taking place in the skies was occurring globally as impressions revealed, and yes, the view was once again that of the alien Armada. Interestingly, would one of the alien species involved choose to as though beam down, a bipedal body form that seemed as though it were made of mud. I have encountered these mud men before, for indeed, on a real side experience I shared many months ago, would such beings be assisting myself and a group with a particular assignment. This mud creature was as though wishing to explore a random town of the earth, the one I was positioned in at that moment. But however the town seemed, from its perspective, sent it into a reaction of fear, as though what it was experiencing was so far removed from what it was accustomed to as to be rather alarming to its personal self. I would attempt to calm the creature, but it would cling to the railings of a nearby building and refuse to let go, like a frightened child, then proceed to beam back aboard whichever ship it came from. Some moments would elapse, and a little like dipping one's toe into water, now the mud creature would return, but in the company of others, for mutual support seemingly, and they proceeded to tentatively explore the various sights, structures, and curiosities of human society. So a species of rather a nervous disposition, but still part of the overall fleet, and intending to be a part of the intergalactic conglomeration that was set to incorporate the Earth and all humanity. Besides their timid nature, impressions revealed the mud creatures had a very pure and sincere consciousness, almost like children. I found them, in fact, to be a very endearing species. In an unrelated scene that followed, would I find myself in the presence of my father, and following with the theme of real side experiences in recent days, would he choose to assail me? Just as it is with any situation where agreement-effected circumstances allow the potentiality of attack, then it falls on the individuals involved to decide if they will proceed to play the role of the victim or aggressor. For in reality, no individual can bestow harm upon us, regardless of their might or capability, unless we agree that they can, that we have the idea installed where their body vehicle can harm or destroy our own. Just like in computer games, no character can destroy another unless the programming present with each and in relation to each other dictates this is so. In some computer games, the avatar we play will level up, and each level allows them a greater power. The monsters which posed a threat as the avatar operated at lower levels no longer does, and what has changed then is the programming existing between the two forms, the avatar and the monsters. Creation is very much as a multi-dimensional computer game. The same principles apply, that of the created avatars being a consciousness programmed and effected as they will, their decided strengths and weaknesses. And in regards to each other, so agreements are determined that form the parameters and boundaries of all interactions, the extent by which, if any, one can harm, dominate, or destroy another. With the process of awareness involving a releasing of all ideas of the consciousness, including then the various agreements we have in relation to other beings, so we gradually release all ideas that facilitate the ability of others to bestow harm upon us. We become then increasingly indomitable, as absent of the idea agreement there can be no effected simulation, and individuals may be inclined to attack us, but their efforts will prove futile, and the real side outcome will present, in whatever simulated way it might, as we nullify and put down our assailants. This would be the case here, as it would be necessary to defend myself and to hurl my father across the scene we were in. And as I would mention this experience to DUANE, he would speak of how it isn't that the experience reveals a dislike, but more so that as we have all been indoctrinated and brought up into a particular framed consciousness, which includes the idea of a competition, this, like any attitude, can express on the real side. That very often will siblings compete, parents compete with their offspring, friends among themselves, for whatever it is that is deemed worth competing over, and yet, in cause and effect based simulated creation, everyone can have whatever they want. It literally is a case of deciding it, installing it as an idea, and with the focus applied, so the consciousness will develop along the desired lines, and that which is sought becomes a simulated experience, with no need then to take from others or compete with anyone. That on the physical we may not necessarily transform our jealousy, hatred, etc. into abrasive action, but every thought we have, every emotion, every intent and attitude will effect as a reality in whichever dimensions of life it manifests. And if these attitudes are directed towards others, so these will actually present as attacks in various forms on the real side and other dimensions of life. Very possibly then, my father held even maybe a momentary attitude in regards to myself, and this manifested on the real side as an attack that I had to nullify. As you can imagine then, we all are being attacked constantly, multi-dimensionally, as most beings we encounter, especially of the consciousness immersed, unaware variety, will not have a focus with the nowness of their real awareness, and will be in a constant states of creating unceasing, unbeneficial thought, emotion, and attitudes. And occasionally we may be shown on the real side these attitude fallouts, perhaps as a heads up as to the true intent of others, but also that we must remember that only through extreme focus can all thought forms, emotion, and corresponding multi-dimensional body vehicles be regulated and kept in check. A nowness real awareness of focus that may take the lifetimes it will to fully establish, and so it is to be expected that we will be attacked on occasion by even those closest to us. And the idea would be to not then apply additional consideration and emotion in response, as we run the risk of embroiling ourselves in a back and forth of ideas that go nowhere other than admiring us in creation as the effects. We simply maintain our indifference, and we continue to become more capable in the face of all adversity, be it consciously intended or as an unconscious attack through unregulated attitude creating, as we continue to release all ideas of the consciousness. Interestingly, the scene where this took place was in a restaurant, one that was owned by what appeared to be some kind of a dragon. Though my father and the other diners present seemed oblivious that this was the case. A final reminder then, as to how the reptilians control and own everything, especially completely enslaved planets such as Earth, every chain of restaurants, every system, be it political, educational, scientific, religious, etc., all will be under the scaled hand of the dark force reptilian controllers. But for the one-dimensional human, the surface world front bears no indication that this is the case. But on the real side, so the personal self is shown these glimpses behind the wizard's curtain. We are shown creation as it actually is, and not as we are indoctrinated into thinking it is. And so, sing the new you song. It is your connection to the true reality, the all is, that the real you, your real awareness, is a part of. New